Oh, yeah. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Open Mic Foundation. Today, we're having a kitchen talk. I have brought these storytellers to the kitchen, so welcome, you beautiful ladies. Thank you so much for joining today. Today is not your ordinary kitchen talk. Usually we have the kitchen talk that refers to a group of women or men talking on a particular topic. Today we're talking about the exhibition that we're going to be hosting at the 28th of March, which is going to be in the Alberton North area. And we are going to be talking about the exhibition itself, right? And basically what we're going to be doing, we have two sections. We have the storytellers, which is us that's on today. And then we have the artist that's coming through next week. So just a little bit of insights about the story itself and why we're having this exhibition and why we're hosting it, just to give you guys a little bit of a rundown about it, right? So the exhibition, it's its first concept in South Africa that's been launched by the foundation itself. The exhibition is called The Resurrection. A lot of people have asked me why the resurrection. It is not linked to any religion. It is basically using the word resurrection to say, you have been reborn, you have, come to light, and you have basically been rebirthed, okay? The exhibition itself is about understanding who we are today and how are we of service, right? And a lot of people and stories are going through this right now through the pandemic. And you guys will see there's a lot of similarities with people's stories and their experiences and basically what challenges they face today. So the exhibition is another way of expressing oneself as well. So what we tried to do was also bring wonder and imagination to storytelling as well. At the same time, you express through storytelling, but we also express through art. And even with artists as well, and the way that they express, it's absolutely magic that gets created. So I want to welcome everyone today. Thank you guys so much for joining. The people that are online, thank you so much for joining us today. And what we're going to do is that we're going to give the storytellers a bit of a sneak peek of what are the stories that will be shared on the day of the exhibition. So we have Andi Swart. You want to wave, Andi? We have Kimmy Tempest. Good wave. And then we have Sduduzo. Wave. So these storytellers, will be coming. They will be live, and the exhibition is a live exhibition. It's not virtual. However, it will be recorded, so you will get the exhibition recording on the YouTube channel of the foundation. So I don't want to keep anyone in expense. I think let's kick off and give the storytellers a chance to showcase themselves and the story that they will be bringing at the exhibition itself. So we're going to start with Andi. Andi's story's title is The Heart of a Fighter, and she is going to be giving you a sneak preview of what that means to be, and the story around the heart of a fighter. So Andi, over to you.
Thanks, Sesh. Just want to say thank you to Sesh for creating the platform. Thank you to Open Mic Foundation. It's always nice to share stories, then you just realize everyone is actually connected in one other way. We all share the same kind of story. So I chose the title, The Heart of a Fighter, because I consider myself as a fighter, and I also used to compete for South Africa as a boxing and a kickboxing, amateur boxing and kickboxing athlete. So what I want to do is I want to try and take that and compare it to everyday life. And it took me about 40 years to really realize that is it, because sometimes you go through life and trying to analyze why and how, and you just can't figure it out. And one day it clicks. So all of us has got a past, and we all have past experiences, and the past experiences will determine how you are later in your life to a certain degree. Maybe you've got, maybe you like my sis, you know, she likes to go and shop shoes and shoes and shoes because she thinks, you know, she didn't have a lot of shoes when she was little. Sometimes you don't like I don't know, a person with blue eyes because maybe there was a bully at school with blue eyes. It's things that happens to you, and then it influences you later in life. And you cannot go back and change the past. But what you can do is you can go back and you can actually change the meaning that you attach to specific past experiences. And you can actually go and take that from a negative to a positive. Now, in my life, and I know in everyone's life, you've got lots of pivotal moments, past experiences that you can really, really remember. Someone must ask you, can you remember the first time you rode a bike or you had something nice to eat, your first kiss? Can you remember your first hiding? Can you remember something that made you cry, that made you happy, that made you sad? There are certain experiences that sticks. And even if, as you get older, some of them pop up even more. So what I want to do today is I just want to go back to one past experience. And it's actually this specific experience that let me later on in life realized, you know what, I can actually take this and make it a positive and not a negative. And it's funny because I've got lots of different experiences that I can recall. But when I was 24 years old, I started just after, I was in the Air Force for a few years, went to PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was 24 at the time. And I just wanted to start writing and just, you know, get my stories out there. And I know the website was called Woos, that's co.za, www.woos. I don't know. And I wrote a story, and the first story I wrote, first thing that came to mind was that specific event. And even one or two times where I was at a seminar for women to empower women, it's a story that comes up. When we had we were at Red Barn with open mic, and it's also the same type of story that came up. And I was thinking, why is it keep coming up? The same one all the time. And you can ask my partner, Adele, I'm overanalyze everything. So I just overanalyze this. And eventually I'm like, okay, now it really makes sense to me. So the event I want to take you back to is I was in grade 2. 7, I think probably between 7 and 8, probably was on my way to turn 8, just before my 8th birthday. I think that's why I called the story just before my 8th birthday. And I'm not going to share all the things that happened to me. The background is just that every one of us, some of us grow up in different circumstances. So everything was not sunshine and roses. And at that time, my parents, we relocated. We relocated from Brits to Secunda. My dad started working on the mines. My mom was still a nurse. So they both worked 12-hour shifts. So it was really tough for them. My dad went through financial difficulties. He had to go through a liquidation. So, of course, he had to go and pack up his wife, his 3 children, and start over. So I can, as a parent today and being in my 40s, I can actually really put myself in my parents' shoes and how it must have felt to have all of that on your shoulders. And of course, a lot of people struggle to cope. So obviously they drank a lot. So my parents used to be alcoholics, if you could call it that. They're not anymore today. So very grateful for that. But I can remember that night I heard a scream, and I went to the kitchen, and my mom was on the floor and she was being beaten up. And at that moment, I felt I was the eldest. I'm part of a twin, but in a way, I always took the role of the responsible elder one. And at that moment, I mean, you're still a kid, but I was so anxious and I was so afraid that something's going to happen to my mom. And I just didn't know what to do. And then it's just as something clicked, and it was about 12 o'clock at night. Just want to give you a background where we lived. We lived in a best director. It was gravel road. There was caravan homes for the miners. So it was not the best area, only gravel road. And I just started running because I knew down there was Aunt Amy. I'm not sure if she's alive anymore. And I just thought, I'm going to run. And as I was running, the tears were streaming down my face. And I could still remember it was dark, but there was a little bit of the moon that gave me some sunlight, some light. And I could even feel my feet. It was of all the little rocks, it felt like it was starting to bleed. But as I ran, it was like something different came over me. It was like, and I felt, you know what, I can do something. I'm not anxious anymore because I took that first step. I took that step and I just started running. I said, you know what, I'm going to run. I'm not going to stop until I get to find help. And as I was running, it was just a sense of relief of I am in control. I'm strong enough. I can do something. Does not matter if I'm 7 years old. And I never understood what happened to me that day. But I think what happened to me that day is that I actually met the fighter within me. That's the day when I connected with the fighter within me. Because since then, my whole life, I used to be a very vivid runner. I used to run everywhere. I'm still running, you know.
You're still running.
Still running everywhere. But in a way, whenever I ran, and that's why I became a cross country and a track athlete, it gave me that sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of feeling good about myself and of accomplishment, but also it gave me that sense of connecting with the fighter within me. That person that no one knows. And the fighter within could be, it could be energy, it could be the Holy Spirit, it could be anything. You give it whatever you want, but it's that thing that gets, when you breathe your first air, there's something in you. I mean, we are born to survive. It's that thing that makes you get up every time when you are down. And so for years, I was just running. And then at a stage, I was in my late 20s, because obviously I want to talk about how I got into fighting. I couldn't run like I used to. And I was getting frustrated with myself. I had lots of injuries because I did silly things with the special forces and adventure racing. And my friend said, just come and try kickboxing. And I just went there and I started kickboxing because I was frustrated. I wanted to do something. And within a year, I became the South African champion. I got my national colors, I think about 7 times, been to 4 world championships. So for me, fighting became a big part of who I am. And people think that fighters are aggressive people. I think that you just want to go and, I don't know, beat up people, but it's not like that at all. In the beginning, I'm very overconfident when it comes to physical things. So I was a white belt in the dojo. And the first 2 or 3 sparring sessions, I was going, bring it on, bring it on. So 2 of the black belts actually gave me a blue eye because I was so arrogant. I can do anything. And I was like, bring it on. The tougher it gets, the better for me. And I actually had to tell the HR department at Pricewaterhouse, you know what, no, there's no domestic violence or anything. It's just me. I can't keep my hands up.
Oh.
Yeah. So for me, I started with that, but every time the preparation, the dedication, the discipline it takes to be a fighter and to compete, actually compare it to your life as well. The discipline, the courage it takes to be a mother, to be yourself, to be a partner, to be a husband, a wife, a father, to be good at your job. It takes a lot out of you. And in a way, for me, to do the preparation and really work hard for something and then to go and get the reward, that's a very humbling experience. And that if you fail, to get up and to go and do it again. And I want to take you back to, it was a semi-final fight at the World Championships in Ireland, in Dublin. And it was this Portuguese woman. And she came out of the ring, and usually go and you touch gloves. You touch gloves, and I will say, ready, fight. And I was standing there just in the beginning, you jab, you're trying to get your distance. And this lady she stormed and she gave me a Superman punch at first 5 seconds. And my brain was like rattled. I was like, okay, sure. What did I get myself into? And for that first round, it was really tough for me because she was charging and I worked so hard. And when I got back to the corner, I was so rattled, and I actually swear, but I just said, damn, not really damn. I said, damn, she hits hard. And my coach said, then you go back and you hit harder. And I think that in the second round, I just started to focus and to breathe, to remember why I'm here, all the hard work that I've done. And that when things get really, really, really tough, you have to go and connect with that fighter within. You have to dig very deep. Some of us are connected. Some of us, you got to go travel 2,000 miles to get it out there. But if you go and you search and you really dig deep, you will find it, because every one of us has that. And the third round, it was like whoever took the last round would win the fight. And the last round, there's so many things that came back from my past. That's why I say your past has got a big influence, your past experiences on how you act in situations. And I could remember his name was Mr. Van Graan. He was my cross-country coach. And he always said, Andi, whenever you feel tired, you just go and you say, ek wil, ek kan, ek sal. Ek wil, ek kan, ek sal. I will, I can, I shall. And at that time, I just said that to myself in my head. And then there at the top, the people started to chant my name, Andi, Andi. And then the memories came back from when I used to be a runner, how everyone stood up and motivated you. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to give up for myself, and I'm not going to give up for the people that believe in me, and that it ain't over till it's over. And in the end, after the bell rang, I didn't know if I won or not. But when my hand was raised as the winner, the first feeling was a humble feeling, because it was something that you worked so hard for, and you thought it's not possible. And then you proved to yourself that it is. And that made me feel so humble and proud, and a great sense of gratitude that you could be there and to that manage to overcome. And I think that's how it is in life. You know, you're in a boxing ring, and actually it's not your opponent. You are your biggest enemy or your biggest opponent. And your fighting is against yourself and not against the other person. And I think we forget that the person that you spend the most time with is yourself. There's not even a 1 second you can be away from yourself. So you need to really learn how to love yourself, how to trust yourself, how to believe in yourself, and how to be kind to yourself. Because no one else is going to do it for you. You are going to be the one that's going to have to do it.
Andi, I think a lot of us can resonate with that in some way or another, that I can tell you. Just some comments that's coming through for yourself, Andi. Rudo says, exactly, you are strong enough, and that's very powerful, Andi. Akashni is acknowledging that you're a kickboxing champion. Trust me, Akashni, if you see this woman in the ring, you'll probably think, you know, they have this saying, small packages are dynamite. She's one of those. She's like a little dynamite on her own. And she goes and she explodes. She really does. She also mentions, Andi, so beautiful to hear such vulnerable honesty. Just a comment. And then Adele, Iron Woman for sure. I am so proud of you. You have already touched so many lives. Definitely for sure. And Joey is also online. Thank you, Joey, for joining. Our champion daughter, so proud of you, Andi. So yeah. So Andi, I have a question for you, right? Before we wrap up on your story. So just listening to what you're saying and your past experiences, and, you know, going through your own challenges that you have faced and experienced, it certainly had led you to fighting and becoming one of South Africa's, champion in South Africa, women's champion, right? Do you believe that becoming a fighter, it's influenced you to who you are today?
Yes, definitely. I think that I have learned a lot in terms of the preparation of being in the fight afterwards. It's like a lifestyle thing. And I think, and I also thought about the exhibition at the end of the month, titled Resurrection. And, for me, if I have to draw a line between the two, I mean, there cannot be a resurrection after a crucifixion. There can only be a resurrection after a crucifixion. And that people must actually welcome adversity and difficulties into their lives. People tend to just go and feel sorry for themselves. But how are you ever going to enjoy a proper warm meal if you've never been hungry? How are you going to really appreciate a good husband or wife if your heart's never been broken? How are you going to enjoy the warmth of a blanket if you've never been cold? So you have to see that in every difficulty and circumstance that is might be hurtful, there's always a resurrection after that, and it only makes you stronger. So actually welcome it. It's like, Rocky is my favorite star of all times. It ain't over till it's over. Nothing is gonna hit as hard as life, and when it hits you, you got to get back up and keep moving forward. It's really that if you're really challenged, you cannot really see who you are if you're not really challenged. So you have to actually welcome challenges and difficult times in your life. And so, what? You've got this. You can do this. And some you win and some you learn. You don't always have to win. You don't always have to come out on top. But it's about the learning process. What can I take from that? What can I take with me into my future? And to not get stuck in past experiences all the time.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I think a lot of us
still
today...
there? It feels like everyone freezes.
We can still hear you.
I'm still there. You are all like awkward expressions on your faces.
No, we still hear. So your artist is online. Bridget Mayview is on, and
is on?
Your artist that you paired up with. Bridget's online. She says, can't wait to do your artwork. And that's exactly what it is. Guys, the artist will be on next week, just so that there's a reminder for you guys, so that you guys know, so that you can have a look at the artist coming on next week, so that you understand how everyone is paired up. But Andi, thank you so much for your story there and a sneak preview of what will be shared on the day of the exhibition. And then we have Kimmy. Over to you.
Thanks, Sheshnee. Wow, that's a tough act to follow.
Hey?
That's a tough act to follow, for sure. So it's quite a nice opposite for me to go after Andi, because as she was talking, I was just reflecting on, isn't it amazing how every human being has a response to life by way of just our internal wiring. When I listened to how she embraced her experiences by fighting, I embraced my experiences by going within. And that was my only coping mechanism. So some people are like these, like, whoa, sort of lioness types. And then other people like me just go into a corner and then we quietly process everything. Sometimes you don't see me and then you'll know that I'm processing.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I think my story perhaps is the most difficult part when you actually said to me, tell my story. What is your story? What is your story? And I was like, I've never really thought about it, because is there one story or is there multiple stories making up one story? I mean, how do I do this? And I often get caught in how to do something, because my life just feels like it contains so much detail. And yet, as I I say to a lot of my clients, if you think too much, you'll never understand yourself. Why don't you just start speaking? Just start saying what you're thinking. And then all of a sudden, the words are a lot fewer than the actual thought. And what came to mind over and over again in my story was what really started my full experience was a really traumatic moment I had when I was in grade 1, and I was 6 years old. In those days, we started school when we were 6, not 7. And not a lot of people know this story, because I think it's one of these things where in those days it didn't seem so bad. But it was actually the moments in time where I zoned out of life completely. Where the experience was, just in a nutshell, this teacher went up to my maths teacher. She had called us up randomly one by one, to mark book revision on the blackboard. And out of the blue, my memory of the moment was just that she got up from her desk, and she was this enormous woman. I mean, to a 6-year-old, she would be an enormous woman, but she was an enormous and very angry woman. I didn't really feel comfortable in her classroom ever. And she just began to beat me across the classroom on my backside, until I was literally wetting myself. And, for years and years and years in therapy, I used to tell that story, and I could never get past a certain point. And years later, when I've had my children, and I was still somehow, every instant that happened would take me back to this little point in time. And I suddenly had a moment where I realized what this experience was, that my particular journey in my life and in my career was all about going within. Mm-hmm. Because from that moment, my only coping mechanism and the only way that I actually made it through the day or made a success was to go deeper than the perception of the depression or the trauma. And when I would go deeper, and I experienced this even at a very young age, when I would be with the whole feeling, I would just actually go deeper and deeper with the feeling and really process it. So I was an absolute expert in the deepest, darkest places of depression from about the age of 6, which is just a memory I have, right up until I can imagine the age of about 35, 40. Where I never actually experienced depression like other people did, because I had internalized it to such an extent where it became my wisdom. And in that process, I mean, this sounds like a complicated story, but it's really not. This story basically says that I truly started my life. I started living my life when I realized that which I can't do for myself because I don't feel much anymore. I think too much. I try and just process too much. I just go within so deeply. Nobody knows who I am. I started just doing things for other people, because then I realized my happiness actually would access itself by doing things for other people. And then I started living my life when I had my children, because I suddenly, at 18, 19, 20 years old, didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. I had virtually no memory of school. School was a blur. The first day of school for me was that teacher, and the last day of school for me was a celebration that I could just leave that whole experience. And all I wanted to do was have children and help people. And I then became this seeker of meaning. And my only full expression in my story is really just that I lived to make other people feel better, because in doing so, I would feel better within myself. It's the short version of my collective story. But what I realized is there's so many themes that come into that. And I got so much understanding from everything I'd learned through being involved in a very a Christian upbringing, a very sort of religious upbringing. I then went on to study deeper and deeper, all religions, all philosophies. The meaning of life became so important to me because I disconnected from wanting to actually be part of life at such an early age. So I connected at a very early age to meaning. And ultimately, when I got to the end of my schooling and my college years and the first few years of work, the only thing that became important to me was my children, was having a family, and raising children and being able to become a mother and nurturer for many others who perhaps didn't have a good experience in life. Like none of us had perfect experiences. And so all these parts of me began emerging from that single experience of going within. And the most prominent thing about the years and years of working with myself and realizing who I am was this voice within, this voice in the silence. I was a deep feeler. I understood that I understood and felt things deeply. I didn't necessarily understand things in words until finally my emerging, so to speak, between the age of 40 and I'm now 48, and I still feel like I'm emerging. I still feel like I'm taking the proverbial bucket off my head every single day. Maybe every single week, you know, like, oh, I haven't seen that yet. Oh, my word, what is there still more to see? So each, as you say, you just take these things, you access something much more deeply within yourself. And then my philosophy became, if I can't do it for myself, I've got to do it for the world. So, I mean, there's not a shadow of a doubt. There's days where I've been walking around in a complete bubble and just not being really interested in me. Only functioning for me is get up, dress up, and show up, because life is moving on out there. The sun is shining. Whatever pain you're trying to work with, you actually need to feel it. You need to completely be with it. You need to love that teacher that gave you the beating. You need to love that parent that gave you the beating. You need to love the husband who was wrong for you. You need to love the experience for what it brought you. And in doing so, I can do that for others. I can then give back to the world. And I actually feel like I don't belong in this world a lot of the time, because perhaps there's many of us out there who just feel like, well, at the end of the day, my life is my excitement, my vibe that I get is actually sitting there, assisting others on their path. The joy that I get from counseling and sorting life out with my children, assisting them without forcing them, assisting them without pushing them into bottles that I want them to be in. It's a very complex journey, but I feel as if my whole story is around motherhood and becoming the mother that my teacher couldn't be. In that moment, my teacher had no aspect of mothering. And so through that experience, I had to go so deep for so long to access the wisdom of it, that now I'm just like I'm a wisdom addict. I just want to find the wisdom in every lesson that life brings us. And I just assist and impart that so that you can use it practically, so that I can use it practically, because a lot of life doesn't make sense. I mean, especially if you look at the last couple of years, I would say since 2012, since 2000, everything's been changing at a hell of a pace. Our children, ourselves, adults, parents, everyone is in a crisis. How do we deal with a crisis? Well, we take our experiences and we help the people around us as they help us. Life is about helping. Life is about shining the lights and showing the way and sharing and doing with one another so that you can get somewhere. And, you know, ultimately, I say my true heroes, my real true heroes in my life are both my children and that teacher. Ultimately, she became my hero because she showed me the one thing that I could really do, which was go completely to the depths of the depths and not have to fight. I was lucky enough, my gift wasn't fighting, but in one or other way, you always have to get up, dress up, and show up. So you have to fight in another way. And I chose at that point in time just to get up and show up for life, no matter what was brewing beneath the surface. I chose to put on a smile and put on a face for others. And I think ultimately, my story may be embedded in that. My story isn't finished yet. I feel like there's just so many things that still come up. And I love this quote that says, smooth seas don't make skilled sailors. And all we are just really obliged to do for ourselves and for others is just to keep on chipping away and improving our skills, our inner skills, our outer skills, our spiritual skills, our practical skills, our skills with emotionality, with everyone around us. We are going to have to keep on polishing our skills. And that is just my wish for myself and my wish for others, is that we are continuing on a very positive frame of mind, because it is really easy for us all to become stuck in dark places. And I just love that I had this phenomenal gift from somewhere deep within that assisted me to keep bringing it out and just doing for others, because I didn't necessarily feel like I was doing it for myself at the time, and yet I was.
Beautiful. You know, I think a lot of us, I think in many different ways, can definitely, you know, resonate with that for sure, right? And we always have this inner voice that always speaks to us. I think we question that inner voice at given points in our lives. I know I have, and I can honestly, truly tell you that, you know, if I look earlier in my life, I can honestly, truly tell you I would never listen to it. But if I look back now, I was right. If I had listened to that inner voice, there's certain things that would have had a massive impact on my life at that given point. So Kimmy, just a question, you know, on that, right? So firstly for me is that, why do you think people don't listen to their inner voice? That's the one part of it, right? And what made you start trusting yourself and listening to that inner voice? Because, you know, we have a lot of doubt, environment, circumstances, and all of those type of things, right? So why do we not listen to that? And secondly is that, you know, what made you start trusting that voice?
It's a very good question. And it's going to be a very personal question, because I'm not, the important thing to realize about this work as well is that my philosophy is not necessarily wrong or right. It's my process.
Yes.
And what I'd like to introduce at this point is the concept that we've entered into an era quite a while back already where the concept of wrong and right needs to be removed because it's outdated. Because the world is a complex terrain, and what you're going through and what I'm going through is so vastly different. Yeah. What the man on the street is going through and what the man in Bishop's Court is going through, one is not lesser than the other or more important than the other or wrong or right. We are all going through a process. And what makes us not listen to our inner voice, from my perspective, the most efficient thing in the new world, in this fast-paced, material, highly demanding, highly competitive environment, is our understanding of something greater than us. It's called faith. So the opposite being doubt. So of course, doubt becomes louder when we are not perhaps that calm with something greater than me could potentially be in control, and it could still potentially come out okay. I may not die from this, because maybe something greater than myself actually has a reason for showing me what I'm seeing, or showing me what I'm feeling, or giving me what I'm feeling. So there's this one thing that continually existed within me. First of all, I knew I used to see spirits and angels, and I had a great amount of feeling, so I could feel energy at a very young age. So for me, had an experience of something far greater than us exists. And perhaps it was giving me a kind of inner strength, not to say that I didn't suffer from extreme and tremendous amounts of self-doubt, because that will always be there, because we are having a human experience. But the best part of this whole question is really that when you don't have faith anymore, and when you've got so much doubt, you feel like you're drowning in it, the sun comes up and you're faced with a choice. You can get up, dress up, and show up in a dark and dangerous world, or you can actually just carry on sleeping and not arrive. And either way, you don't die. Either way, you don't suffer too much, other than the repetitive task of having to deal with the blockage. And there was just something that came up while Andi was speaking. It was something that once came to me via a Facebook post, and funny enough, today it came up on my reminders, and it said, when the world is throwing bricks at you, take them and lay a foundation, because you don't know what you will end up building. And that for me is where I felt a sudden reminder of, I didn't know what was happening when I was 6 years old and how I was going to use that as my foundation. But I took each one of those compounded feelings and experiences, and I was subconsciously, unconsciously, I was creating layers and layers and layers of bricks that amounted to where I am now. And the important thing was that I actually just needed to take the brick and put it down, put the next experience down, put the next experience down, and keep building. And goodness knows, I didn't know what I was building, but I got this beautiful, sort of creation at the end of it all. And I don't feel I've finished it all yet, but at least I have something. Yeah. And a lot of people feel like they have nothing, they're lost, and everything has fallen down. And the thing without faith, you can always suffer from doubt. And if you can't have faith in something greater than yourself, please, for goodness sake, will you have faith in the brick that's lying in front of you? It looks boring. Okay? It looks really boring, and it looks like it can do nothing, but it's a brick. And where you didn't maybe have a pearl coming out of an oyster, you've got a brick. Okay, so I've got a brick, and oh boy, here comes the next one, and here comes the next one, and you just feel like this ongoing sort of brick assault is happening. You just take those bricks and you don't give them back. They're your experiences. They've been put in front of you for a good reason. Use them. Build something with them.
Yeah. So absolutely profound, Kimmy. I couldn't agree with you more. We tend to look at things and we want to react and we want to judge and we want to use excuses and we want to do everything, but just to take a step back and look at this brick and to see how simple this brick is and how you can lay that brick down and build that foundation, right? Because at the end of the day, the judgment, society, people's opinions does not serve you and matter to that foundation that you're building, because it's absolutely no regard to it at all.
That's right.
Beautiful, beautiful. Akashni says, true, every experience in life takes us towards a meaningful existence. So thank you so much for that, Akashni. I truly appreciate that. Kimmy, I think, the voice in the end is always there. It's that subtle little whisper that's in our minds and behind us, and it says, just go. And I think all of us need to acknowledge and be conscious of the little voice that's within us as well, and don't dismiss it. I dismissed it for many years, and I know the repercussions of dismissing that. And I think Andi, even Scoo, I think you yourselves, can relate to that inner voice that we all hear sometimes, and we know it's not true, and we take it for granted. We really do. We really do. Kimmy, thank you so much for that. Very insightful.
Thank you. Thanks for Sheshnee.
No, absolutely. It's always a pleasure having you on. Scoo, over to you, sweetie. T18. Guys, I think, going through the pandemic right now, and Scoo has been through so much in life and has touched so many hearts with her story. I had the privilege of meeting Scoo last year. In fact, Scoo, it was last year this time, in February last year, right?
February.
Yeah, that you came down and we had this event, and Scoo came down from Cape, and she shared her story with us, and we were all in tears, we were so heartwarmed with her story, and this brave woman that came and just vulnerable and just poured her heart out. Andi, you were there. I think you were one of the ones, and we just, we cried our eyes off. But yeah, Scoo, thank you so much for joining and being part of this exhibition. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, thanks, Shesh, and thanks for the platform. I think, again, it came in the right time. It's a Trisomy month, March, and again, tomorrow it's World International Women's Day.
Yes, it is.
The panel, it's an open mic for women. Either way, we're sharing different stories. I've noted that Andi started telling about story her pain back then when she was 7. So as Kim, she was 6. So I was 40. So, but one thing in common, we sharing our stories about pain, about the fighting and how to overcome. With my story, I've told it over and over again, but each time I have to tell it and retell it, it feels like the first time. So it's about the trisomy 18. My chapter is about trisomy 18, my daughter with the unique code. And then everybody asking me, what is trisomy 18? Trisomy 18, it's a severe underdevelopment of an infant or an unborn child, which causes a lot of things due to the addition of a chromosome. So they're saying too much of everything is a problem. So with my pregnancy, I decided to get pregnant before 40 so that I can have a baby girl that I will go to pension with. Currently, I have a 23-year-old son. It was 2018 when I fell pregnant. I remember in March, I went to the US and I came back. I was 4 months pregnant. And then I was admitted because of the pressure rate on the flight, which was 17-hour back and forth. So, but the doctors couldn't detect that there was something wrong with the child until I gave birth on the 19th of August, 2018. And then to my surprise, we're all surprised. She was trisomy 18. So trisomy 18, it comes in different types. The trisomy full, there's a partial trisomy, and there's this mosaic one. My daughter had a full trisomy 18. So in a way, when the medical people explained to me, they said, if they detected it while she was still in my tummy, I was gonna be forced to terminate it. But for some reason, God wanted me to carry her. So she lived for about 3 months, 3 weeks. She stayed at the NICU about 6 days. So there were a lot of emotionally roller coasting in between because at the NICU, the environment is so different. You cannot allow anybody to come in and see a child. It's only the parents that are allowed. So in that journey, I had my with me, my mom, she fully supported me, my partner. So until then, she passed on the 11th of this. I went through so much. I had to prepare her burial while she was still alive, all those things, but it's life. We are here. All I can say is the lessons that I had out of all this. She taught me that she made life easy, death look easy. She made death look easy. She was here the minute she was not here, though I was waiting. I wasn't waiting for her to pass on. Again, when we got by the March 2020, it was March 2020, last year. So I got used to the routine of washing hands, of wearing a mask, because it's the exact same thing that we're doing with her. We're not allowed to touch her without washing our hands or putting a mask on when you're changing her and everything. So that thing, I said, okay, she was here to teach me that there will be times that you encounter in life. So for you, it will be an easy path for you. Anything, you'll just get used to it. So in a way, besides that, as I'm saying, there are a lot of lessons that she left me with. Again, in December 2020, 3 months ago, I also suffered from COVID. It wasn't an easy fight, but while I was at it, because it's painful, I was reminded, I got reminded that fight. It felt like she was saying, Mama, fight, you can do it. And I'm like, okay, I have all the powers in me that I can do it. because nobody has been told that I might go at any given time. So while I was at it, lucky enough, nobody succumbed in my family. My mom got COVID, my brother got COVID, and while I'm still in the Eastern Cape, there in KZN, with them so that I can help them, so that nobody succumbed out of the COVID. But again, it ranked on my mind that no, you cannot do anything for them. They have to fight on their own. You fought on your own. Even when you are there, you are going to be reinfected and you're going to be infectious to other people. So it's beyond you. You cannot do it. You're doing it for yourself. You're fighting for your own good. So as Andi said, she was fighting. Now she's a well-renowned person. She has accolades. She has won awards out of fighting just because it derived from a painful story somewhere.
Yeah. I think every time I hear you, you share your story, it's like it's like I'm listening it for the first time, right? Coming back to your story, Sku, if you look at today and how people are faced with the pandemic, and I personally know of a lot of people that have lost family, that have lost friends. It's quite some people are really going through a huge tragedy right now with some of the deaths that they've experienced because of COVID, right? What would, and obviously, you've experienced COVID, but I mean, going back to your story of losing your daughter, what would be your advice to people, who have lost people, people are struggling. How do you move forward from that? I think today's circumstances is also in finding and keeping them into this box right now. What would your advice be to them?
I would say, look at myself. What helped me, it's therapy.
Okay.
Therapy, not only once, not only twice, but in different stages, because grief comes in different stages. I lost my daughter. I also lost my red blood cells after some time on MRP. And then I thought to myself, now I'm fine. And then after 8 months down the line, I had to go back to therapy, because now with my partner, which is my daughter's father, we were not in good terms in terms of we're not understanding each other's grief, if I may put it. Yeah. So we ended up, now it required both of us as parents to attend therapy and deal with a lot of things, underlying issues from childhood up until now. So which it helped. Again, and I thought, okay, now I'm done with therapy. Then a few weeks ago, we're watching this movie, William. It's about it's called Naidoo. It's one of those, in South Africa, where the case of hormonal lady. It's anarchic, what do we call it? Archaic people, human beings. So it was a scientific thing, a scientific study. I couldn't finish it because the medical people doing a study, it provoked something. It ignited something from me and said, hey, I'm happy that my daughter was in East London at the Netcare, and then there were no students like in KZN, in the King Lutuli's hospital, where students
Sure, the signal's bad, hey?
Medical school and do their practicals. And then my partner looked at me and said, no, doctor, after 4 days, I'm here, still here.
I can still hear you. Your signal is just dragging.
Oh, okay.
You better now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sku, are you there?
So in
Sku, we can't hear you. Actually you've gotten stuck. Technology, guys. Technology. I don't know if she can hear us.
Okay, before, remember, I gave birth to her. We're allowed to. Hello?
We can hear you now, but you've been stuck for a while.
Okay. So after 4 days, we were waiting for the results from the genetical doctor and the neurologist and everyone of the pediatricians. So in that 4 days, we were not allowed to see her. And then he reminded me that no, they were studying her. Genetical doctor, the specialist, they were there, they were studying her. And I said, oh, she was a guinea pig. And he said, yeah, that's how you can put it. So I couldn't watch the movie. I didn't finish the movie because it came back playing like, okay, this is exactly happening to my daughter. Again, I've rebooked another session with the therapist because now I'm angry that my daughter was a guinea pig.
Yeah.
So therapy. And again, it goes back to the issue of privilege. The privilege. Somebody cannot afford, that have gone through what I've went through from the rural areas, cannot afford to see a therapist now and again.
Yeah.
In a way. Or they will even not realizing that they need therapy to overcome whatever the traumatic instances they've come across.
Yeah, I think therapy is not something that people think, I don't know. I think there's a stigma around therapy for different cultures. And I'm saying different cultures, right? I mean, Andi, Kimmy, I'm not too sure. But I think, Sku, I think in the African culture and in the Indian culture, there's definitely a stigma around therapy and what people think about therapy as well. I totally believe in therapy. I think it's a different type of therapy that you go for. And some people do process grief, loss, and pain and emotional pain into different ways, right? Some people, I have come across people that actually don't believe in therapy.
Yes,
so,
they are.
Yeah,
they are. But for me, I can commend it. It already helped me.
Yeah,
it really helped me.
Thank you so much, Sku, for that, ladies. Yeah, it's me. Oh yeah, so my story that I'm going to share on the day, I haven't really shared my story onto open mic, and I was told by a few people that I do need to start sharing. So I have, decided to partake, in the exhibition. And my story's title is Voice of Authenticity, right? I do hear a lot of people using that word authenticity, and I think a lot of people misuse the word and they're not too sure what it means. And the reason why I chose that story, it's got to do with the reason as to why I have created and founded the Open Mic Foundation, and, for many, many years, Sku, you started your story at 40, and the other lady started at 6 and 7. I think I started my story at the age of 32, right? And for many years, I suffocated in growing up with my family. I love my family to bits, but I think when you start to understand who you are as a person, you tend to, feel the suffocation and not be able, to speak out. So the biggest challenge I faced while growing up, being in a marriage, being at home with my parents in the Indian culture, being in a workplace that was dominated by men, in the career that I chose, it was something of a very different sense of authenticity that I experienced. And if there's one commonality throughout my entire story, it has to do with expression. It had to do, was I free to express myself the way that I wanted to, and not be judged by others, society, culture, religion. And I can honestly, truly tell you that it has been the biggest challenge of my story to date. And it obviously has led me to creating the foundation. Well, the biggest part of creating the foundation. I did get started to notice that the more that I expressed myself, the more I felt free, the more that I felt that it was my truth, the more that I felt that I became more authentic in who I was, and the more that I actually found that my light grew and it was outshining much more people. And people did not like that. But it wasn't for me to justify or to, how can I say, question that. It was for the person, you know, when you speak your truth or you speak from yourself or from your heart, it's yours, it's your truth. And when the person that receives it on the other end, it's for them to make of whatever they feel at that given point in time. So, you know, when I say voice of authenticity, it's more about, are you expressing to the world, and most importantly to yourself, your truth? Because people doubt themselves, and to Kimmy's point, self-doubt is a very eliminating belief that one has in themselves, right? And pain and hurt, abuse, in whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's trust that we lose in society and in people, we tend to hold back and not speak what we feel. And I think a lot of women out there don't really, really understand what it means to be true, to be honest enough to voice themselves. And it has been one of those biggest challenges in workplaces, in the corporates today. Women do find the challenge in that and are so afraid of voicing their opinions because they are so scared of what that reaction would be of someone else. I had a situation at work the other day where a man could not voice his opinion to a woman because he was so afraid of speaking his truth, because I already knew what it was. And I wanted to see if men are struggling with that. And believe it or not, they do. They do. They actually do. And it was very surprising for me as to people in general, how do they actually not express their true self? So when I created the foundation, it is a reflection of certain aspects of my life, but it also is a reflection of the travel that I've done over the time as well. And what I did was, I also found myself more when I traveled, in the sense that I was able to speak more when I traveled than I was at home. And when traveling, I actually listened to other people's stories, and for them to voice their stories and to showcase, you know, what it was meant for them. And when I got back from a trip in South America, I was actually in Argentina, and I got back it was 2019 that I got back from my trip. I came back, and I think it was a few people, and I think Andi was one of them. I think so. Yeah, Andi was one of them. And I said to them, I don't know what to do with all of these stories that I've just heard now from this travel. And I said, I need to create something. I need to create something that people are going to listen to people. People are going to listen to the wisdom and experiences of people. And I said to, and Andi knows me, I will hop on my horse and I will like, no, something needs to happen here, because I can't sit with this and think that it is not meant for other people to hear and to share. And came from South America, and within a month, I think it was, Andi, literally within a month, I created the Open Mic Foundation, because it was so unreal for me that people are so scared to express who they are. And I think they're actually missing out on what is actually in the world. Guys, if I have to really, really share with you my experiences and share with you from being suffocated through society, religion, culture, marriage, and myself to where I stand today in front of you, you would never think it's the same person. To the sense that I can stand here today and speak my truth to you and to share with you that I am authentic. I am, and I always say this to my friends, I mean, you three ladies pretty know me, and I always say, you would never find another real person that will tell you the honest truth. If you have a question and if you need an answer and if you ask me, you will always have the real truth from my side, definitely, for sure. And that is my story, right? And that is my story. Let me just see. Kimmy, do you have a question for me? Or Sku or Andi? I'm going to open up the floor to you guys. So go for it, Kimmy. You on mute.
Am I back?
You back, you back, you back.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I jumped up earlier and then I think you muted me. So you spoke of this incident at 32. Was that when you went to Argentina?
No. So when I went to Argentina, that was 2019. The age of 32 is where I reached my highest peak in a career-wise in a mining company. It was the peak of my career. And when I turned that age of 32, you know, I said to myself, is this what it is? Is this what I was aiming for in my career-wise? And it was a solid corporate career-wise, right? And I reached it at that peak then. I didn't want to become a general manager. I don't want to become a general manager as I am today. I don't want to become a CIO, not at all. And I look back at that age of 32, and it was that defining moment when I knew I had to change what I needed to do. And I'm sitting here today, being where I still am from a corporate perspective and where I am today, oh, wow. It is the total different person that's sitting here today. Yeah.
Mm. So earlier on, I spoke about sometimes you keep on putting the bucket on your head because you feel secure with that bucket on your head. Yeah. And so you took your bucket off at age 32 and you realized there was something more.
Yeah.
What was it? One person who kind of had a moment with you where you suddenly realized that wasn't what you wanted? Or was it actually like you not identifying with many things that amounted to that?
It was many things, right? I think the real bucket actually came off 4 years ago when I was in Bali. Was it? Yeah, 4 years ago when I was in Bali. Now the bucket's off. There's no bucket. There isn't a bucket, right?
If I was in Bali.
Yeah. The bucket's off, right? And I think at the age of 32, it was being in that corporate environment where it was dominated by men and having an Indian woman sitting around a table in an exco where there was just men. And I was the only Indian woman, right? Leave alone Indian, but a woman, okay? So that was the one thing. But there has been many, I think, buckets. And like you've mentioned before, you take these buckets, you put it over your head, and then you take it out again. But I can tell you now, there's no bucket over my head. I went to Bali in I think it was 2018. It's about 3.5 to 4 years ago. And I met a monk. Oh wow, the most peaceful, most humble, most gracious person, beautiful soul I have ever met in 40 years, that I can tell you. He saw the pain in me at that time, that doesn't know me, never met me, doesn't know who I am, nothing, doesn't know the story, nothing. And we sat around the table and we were having dinner. He invited us to his gallery. It was an art gallery. And we had dinner. Oh. And he absolutely beautiful soul. And that day was the day that changed my life. He saw the pain and he saw the hurt, and he just saw through me, and he said only just one thing to me, just one thing, okay? And he said to me that if you truly want to be happy, you have to first accept. Happiness is acceptance. And if we can't accept, we will never truly be happy. And honestly, if I have to be true to that, I didn't realize what he meant at that point in time. And I had to process it, and I had to digest it and to understand it. And when it did hit me, oh, wow. It is the most life-defying moments I have ever truly experienced in my life. Yeah. Mm. He will always be in my heart, and he will always know that he has changed me for who I am today. That I can tell you.
So that was really the story of the beginning of your moment of authenticity.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just the potential to see your authenticity was in somebody who understood it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Because what I do know about you is that you're also a warrior of change.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. We're gonna change the world, honey.
Absolutely. The thing that one has to make or draw a line between is that which I have to accept the things I can't change, and I have to change the things I can change. And yeah. I've got to have the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
The hardest part is accepting the things we can't change, specifically when we change warriors and we think we can do it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that is the amazing part of your story. That I like the detailed segments, the moment where something goes so loud. And it's normally another person, it's a teacher, it's a random stranger who brings you the most profound moment of light that you can never ignore any other thing in your life again, because that moment is always going to be like the thing that shifted you.
Yeah. And the thing is, one of the things that I want to do with the foundation is share with people what it truly, truly means to actually express yourself, to actually understand who are you, right?
Yeah.
We tend to forget that due to work, responsibilities, being a mom, a dad, being in the workplace and trying to put the bread on the table, pay the bill. And we forget who we are. We really, and honestly, I had forgotten who I was for many years. I didn't recognize that person for a very, very long time. And when I did find that person again after the last 4 years, it is amazing what you find about yourself, what you actually relearn about yourself again. The person that you've lost for many, many years, and you have now been, uplifted into the space that you'd never thought that you possibly could, right? So yeah.
That is so amazing, Sheshnee. Thank you for that. That's amazing.
That's the first time I've shared that.
Story. I love it. I can just visualize it. This monk, it's like a special image now that I have that you bring to the word authenticity, and I can see you, a person who sees that maybe I just don't know who I am, and this strange person saying to you, you just have to accept. It's amazing.
When I came back, Andi, you can take yourself off mute. Do you remember when I came back and I told you about him?
Yes. For you, it was the most extraordinary experience, You were just astonished by that,
Yeah. And he was the first person that I shared that with when I came back from my trip. And it is a moment that it is so hard to explain what this man did and just express that. And I hope that I can do that with other people, to share that with other people. And through storytellers like yourselves, to come onto this platform and share your wisdom and your experience with the people out there, right? So, ladies, I want to say thank you. But before we wrap up, I want to share something with people. Andi is a fighter at heart and a beautiful coach. And I want to share with you, she has a dojo and she has a Fighting Fit Academy that she runs in Pretoria. And I have been with Andi for many years and I've learned kickboxing from her as well. And she's coached me for many, many years. And she also has her partner, Adele, that coaches and trains people from a body, nutrition, mind perspective. I would like for you to get in touch with Andi if you guys have looking for a different type of fitness, if you guys are looking at strengthening the mind and the body, reach out to Andi. She is on the Facebook. She's on Instagram. You guys can connect with me if you want me to reach out to her. Fighting Fit Academy has come a long way and will always be true to my heart. So please, if you guys are needing a fitness, please contact Andi. And Kimmy she's a numerologist. And Kimmy, I have learned, and another aha moment for me was finding Kimmy through another friend of mine. And Kimmy had done a numerology session on me. And it was one of those moments where you think to yourself, wow, did the stars and the sun and the moon just land on me type of thingy, right? I have learned so much about myself through Kimmy and what she shared about me through my birth and numbers and my name and surname. And until today, it's a year Kimmy and I know each other. Till today, I will always be reminded of the words that she shared with me. So if anyone is seeking to understand themselves better, to know why we do certain things, I think the one thing with you, Kimmy, that you made me open my eyes was actually the solar traveling thing. I was like, it was one of those things. And I never used to realize, why do I like to travel alone? Because I don't like people around, but I want to, go out there. And then I realized what a free-spirited person I am. Mm-hmm. And I didn't, it just dawned on me, and Kimmy just, they call it the Pandora's box. She literally opened that box for me. Yeah. And that was another defining moment for myself. I can truly say, Kimmy, that you did, for me. So I want to share with you guys, if you guys want to reach out to Kimmy, she is a numerologist, beautiful. Sorry, Scoop?
What is a numerologist?
I'm going to hand it over to Kimmy. Kimmy, do your thing.
Okay, so many centuries ago, in the time of Pythagoras, about 500 years before Christ, the school of Pythagoras used to teach many of the original ancient wisdom of the universe. And numerology, or the study of number systems as they relate to the human experience, and various other forms of numerology also relating to the universe and the cosmos. They were taught in the school of Pythagoras. And the Pythagoras system basically also taught music, mathematics. What we know as science now was taught differently then in the form of astronomy and also astrology. And numerology aligns itself with a lot of those modalities, but we have numerology specialists. So often the numerologist will know a little bit about astrology, and an astrologer will know a little bit about numerology, because they are both systems of universal wisdom. And you just learn how to interpret the messages embedded in the numbering system of the person's date of birth and their name that is inscripted on their birth certificates. There's a very, very powerful relevance to that stamp of the letters of your name that go onto your birth certificate. It's quite an interesting study. And that's all I can say what it is.
Oh. Okay, I'll consult.
I mean, to give you an example, Sku, right? You know that age that I said to you at 32? It actually picked up on my chart.
Wow.
That shift, I didn't even know that until she told me that. But that shift happened at that age of 32, and it showed. And it's literally, you know, it's if you think about, if you know of astrology, it's basically how planets, the way your mom, you know, gave you your name and the time you were born. There's nothing, you know, to it. It's what you have, your name, your surname, the date of birth, and the year that you were born.
One of the most important philosophies in the delivering of the information is this concept about acceptance. When a person completely can see themselves for who they are and just accept that that's what I've been given in this life and that's what I have to master. When they can stop trying to be something else because of pressure from the outside, and they can truly accept themselves, it's like there's this moment of beautiful transformation, or what we can call the resurrection, because you have to let go of that old person that you were trying to be all this time, when you didn't even realize that I have to accept the true feelings of who I am and give them words, give them a personality, give them the authentic personality they are. And that's why I love this concept of the resurrection. So, yeah.
Sku, you would be amazed. That's all I'm going to tell you. You will definitely be amazed. Ladies, I want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm going to leave you with the last words of Adele. And Adele says, the words of the song, the story went through my mind with you beautiful,
I'm looking
amazing.
forward to it, because maybe...
Sorry, Sku? I'm not too sure. I think she's, yeah, I think there's something going on with her signal. Okay, so I'm going to leave you.
Connection.
Yeah, it's the connection. I'm going to leave you guys with Adele's word. The words of the song, the story went through my mind with you beautiful, amazing ladies. Love stories, but tells us all that everyone has a story and love conquers all, for ourselves especially. So thank you so much for your words, Adele. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for your time, your patience, and I am so looking forward to the 28th of March being at the exhibition. Guys, please get your tickets. Your tickets is actually on the Open Mic website under the live events. You will be able to book your tickets there. The tickets are very affordable. It's 100 Rand. And we want people to understand what this concept is, and for people to come in and experience what storytelling is, and basically look at these art that actually has been created through storytelling. So ladies, thank you so much. I so appreciate every single one of you. And it's just amazing to see you guys all the time. Always, always, always. Have a great afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, South Africa, and have a fantastic afternoon. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheshnee.
Thanks, Sis. Bye.